Welcome back everybody, and thank you for choosing Current Connected. Today on the bench we have one of the SOK SK48V100 server rack style batteries on the bench, and while it is very rare that these have a problem, they do have a completely user serviceable design. Today we're going to show you how to replace one of the easier parts, and that's going to be the BMS. The design of this pack is very unique in that it only requires a Phillips head screwdriver to service the entire thing. Now, there are some tools that are helpful to have, such as like a torque wrench when you're servicing this, but in today's video, all I'm going to use is this number 2 Phillips screwdriver. Getting started, around the top of the battery, there are a total of 9 Phillips head screws. These just unscrew like normal. Then once all 9 screws have been removed, we're looking at the back of the battery here. This top lid just slides and then lifts, and then we're into the top of the battery. From here, we now have access to the wiring compartment. We're going to want to locate this red wire that has a connector in the middle. Usually these are wrapped in tape, but this pack has been apart before, so you would unwrap that tape and then pull that connector apart, and that cuts power to the BMS so that it's safe to work on this. Then from there, we need to get the faceplate off. So there are 2 screws on each side and 3 screws in from the bottom. To get those screws on the bottom, it helps to tip the pack on its back so that the terminals are facing straight up in the air. Now that all the screws are removed from the faceplate, it can simply be pulled away and then flipped down. Now here on the right, there are 4 sets of cables that go to the cells. These can simply be unplugged, and there is some glue holding them on, so it may be a little bit difficult. And take note, on the side of the connectors, there is a number on them that correlate for which position they go into. It's numbered from right to left, so 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Just make note of that for when you reassemble. Now that those are removed, there are 2 cables here going to the negative cells of the battery. Simply 2 screws remove those. Now with these cables, you'll want to be sure that they can't swing and hit anything, such as the cells or anything like that. After that, there are 2 other cables right here going onto the BMS. Those go to the negative terminal of the battery, so same thing, Phillips head screwdriver to take those 2 screws out. From here, there is 2 connectors and a ribbon cable that get unplugged. These are only able to fit in the port that they correspond to. So you don't have to worry about marking these because it only can go back together one way. From here, there are simply 2 screws on the right and 2 screws on the left that hold the board into the actual faceplate. Those can simply be unscrewed. Then once that board is loose, you can tilt it up, and there is 1 connector here that goes to the LCD screen. That unplugs like that. From there, this whole board can be removed, and our new BMS can be reinstalled reverse of how this one went together. So first plug in that cable going to the LCD, and then go ahead and get the screws in to mount it. And then once it's mounted, installation is essentially the reverse is taking it apart. So now we're going to plug in the various connectors and ribbon cables, then the negative cables going to the terminals on the front, then the negative cables going to the battery cells, followed by the wiring harnesses that go to the cells. We're going to plug this in reverse order, so 4, then 3, then 2, and then 1. And then last but not least, that red connector that brings power to the BMS goes together. And then from there, you'll just put the lid back on and screw it in how it was. That's pretty straightforward. And that's all it takes to replace the BMS. Now I am missing here on the left a couple of zip ties. I guess we already had these taken out. But there is normally a zip tie right here. That is missing in this case. However, if you did have to cut that zip tie to do this service, you would definitely want to replace it. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward to change these BMSs out. Not rocket science by any means. Just keep in mind you're working on a battery, so you don't want to bridge anything across these cell connections up here because there is no power switch on the cells. So just take extra caution not to touch those with any metal. Now again, they're not going to shock you if you touch them with your bare hand, but best practice, be safe, not sorry, and take your time and make sure you're diligent in your process. So I hope that helps, guys, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, we thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.